humanity.
Hi everyone, so here is a special edition of Beyond Replication. We decided to disrupt our honeymoon to record this thing because we felt inspired to talk about all the current energies, post eclipses, post equinox, because we are now officially in the Libra season and from the sound of it, there is a lot going on. So we are just going to share some of our experiences over here. So, Aaron, what would
Yeah,
you like to say?
yeah, the energies are certainly very potent. Being here in Bali, we're a bit removed from what's happening around in the world, but whenever you jump online, you can see articles, you can see the news, you can see the reactions, the response, you can see the programs playing out. And it is what we kind of expected around this time this year. This is that reset year, that number 9, that boot camp year. So this is where all the energy has to be made manifest and realized so that we have something to actually work through, respond through, grow through, and give us that spark for the fire to grow from here on out. So, yeah.
Yeah, with the Saturn back in Pisces on these late degrees of Pisces, all the unresolved stuff from the Piscean age is coming up to the surface to be purged. Obviously, Neptune as the ruler is still in Aries, retrograde, Mars now in the sign of Scorpio and his traditional rulership. So there is a lot of pointing towards facing the shadow of humanity, facing the shadow of the unresolved trauma loops that keep being recreated and remanifested generation after generation after generation. And we know that we are experiencing some of that in our personal experience, how these dynamic are being embodied and manifest through relational dynamic. And this is what everybody is experiencing, I believe. And it's the micro, macro, and also the as above, so below, as within, so without. So the astrology, as has been for the past few months, is really textbook. There is no mistake with regards to the energies that are being manifest within and outside of us in the micro and macro and what's going on astrologically. And obviously, we are still in these after effects of the eclipse season, which was a huge energy that we've been dealing with. And the equinox, obviously, as Aaron said, we just entered into the final trimester of this year, number 9, and it is really the last 3 months of the 9 months because we start the astrological year in Aries season. So this is where it is kind of it's cooking in an oven, ready to come out, whatever that is, and that will be everybody's choice based on the Uranus in Gemini. What is the timeline you're choosing to experience?
Yeah, it's like the Libra point, the balancing between that sense of self and the other, the lived experience and the what you can conceive realistically and actually apply into your everyday life. So the timing of the energy right now is really in it brings us into the recalibration of ourself and asks us, are these the stories we want to play out time and time again? It's showing us the dynamics of different cycles, different mythologies, different archetypes rising up. We've seen the history. They say those who do not know history are doomed to repeat it, but I feel if you know history, you're doomed to repeat it because it is a program, essentially.
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, and it is based on uh, legacies of the past, which are constructive. But once you reach a peak expression, there's no more construction. You have to take the purity of the reason and sacrifice it for a delusion, an illusion. You have to become a Frankenstein in the way of constructing in these times. So you perverse the creation at this point, and you can clearly see it as perfected replication, where it's about wrestling the creative potential of chaos to create control through your manufactured chaos, which is essentially the consent of the masses through reasons, which have real impact, real meaning. Because when something happens to you, it affects you personally. When something threatens your family, your friends, what you care about, it has a real gravity, it has a real meaning. And you can't conceive of the causes or the potential results when you're living in the energy of the moment. You have to go through.
We have an outside entertainment going on. The kids are learning the traditional Balinese dancing and they just started playing music. So it is a probably background you can now hear and experience for yourself. We bring in a little bit of Bali to your wherever you're watching this.
So it's like this, you have the world happening, the
Exactly.
people's happening. How do you find the voice within yourself in the chaos of the control, the epigenetics, the logismoi, the children of the polis? As we are moving through these times, the energies rise up, spin around and show us what's been at the bottom. So we're in this recalibration to clean the slate energetically for cycles to mature, not necessarily end, but to progress into something new.
Yeah, something of a different expression. And for both of us here in Bali, this is a Gemini rising relocation. So we are exploring, we are revisiting old ideas, old thought forms, old programs, old stories. And at the same time, it's interesting because based on our experience of Bali so far, we have seen the old slowly but surely like dying off, like where's the new it's taking over. So there are aspects, there are parts where people are holding on to the culture and the tradition and trying to help it to survive in the same way, and then there are other parts where it's gone. So this is very interesting because of course Gemini always represents the choice, it's the different timelines, and now Uranus being in Gemini is speeding up everything and now being retrograde, of course. And Mercury now being in Libra in that mutual reception with Venus as the former ruler of Uranus. And I know for myself, I've been observing how important Venus has been for the past at least 4 years when she was the ruler of the North Node, the ruler of the South Node. Now, obviously, she's not connected necessarily to the lunar nodes, but she's still going to be a ruler of Uranus for the final time. And Uranus being a sign of Taurus since 2018 and going into his last ingress next month in November. Interesting enough, November was the month when Pluto re-entered Aquarius for the final time last year. And it is the Scorpio season as well. Then coming into Sagittarius, we have the Jupiter in Cancer. So we could just go around with all the planets and all the energies and how they support in one another in this, showing us the totality of the structure of the reality we've been experiencing at the moment until this moment in time, and having the choice. You can choose the same thing. Like here in Bali, people are still choosing some of the traditional, some of the cultural aspect of their ancestors. But then there are also these new things, new ways. Also speaking to some of our hosts, how these current times are infiltrating into their culture and changing their everyday reality and changing their needs, values, way of being, way of experiencing reality. And this is just a small island. This is happening all around the world, in every country, in every town, everywhere, in every household. In every being, where we have the opportunity to choose, like what of the old still holds a value and a meaning. With now Neptune in the sign of Aries, there is this desire for the new, the fire to experience something new, and Saturn obviously back in Pisces, but to be moving back into Aries next year in February, and then having that conjunction with Neptune on that analytic 0 degrees of Aries. There is an opportunity to start a completely new cycle, and the new cycle will be started. It doesn't matter what people will choose. The new is already here. It will just either be recreated in a certain way that we've experienced before, which is not even about the details of what it looks like. It's about the emotion. It will keep recreating the same emotional state, or we rise above it. And that's why I feel, even with all these situations that we are experiencing in the world, politically, geographically, geopolitically, what doesn't matter, all these things on a microcosm, they are help. There is an aspect of them that is helping us to realize through contrast. Does this still feel good to me? Is this still something I value? Is this still something that is helping me to create the foundation of where I'm going? Is this in alignment with the timeline and story I'm choosing for myself, where I want to play a different role? So now being in a Libra season, to me, Libra is the archetype of the seventh house. It is not just about a romantic relationship and marriage and partnership as was defined by the traditional astrology. but it's your relationship to everything. It's your relationship to reality, to your human experience. And to me, even though Leo is more like the acting and the drama, but Libra has the aspect like, what role are you wanting to play in relation to that outside of you? Anything, anything and everything, because everything is relational in here. So that's what I feel like now coming into this new season, the cardinal sign of Libra, and we know Libra is about justice, balance, everything that is out of balance, everything that is out of harmony, and especially now in the Mars being in Scorpio, it is coming up for purging, and everything is part of it because everything is everything, and Mars is the ruler of Neptune, and Neptune is the source. So that's why it is intense times we're living in, but it does play an important role, and it does hold a purpose and meaning.
Yeah, very well said. And to go back to that stage here, Libra, the stage is set in Libra. That's where we find the sense of self in relation to existence and our depth of compassionation for conception's sake. Taurus works its unconscious through the Libra, through a sense of self in relation to other and in relation to existence itself. And so in this way, our ignorance is guiding us, and we have the opportunity. Imagine you've done a play 1,000 times. Are you going to continue to do the play the same way, or are you going to express differently? This helps us to bring that Leo Aquarius energy in so we can find the purity of our expression. We have civil unrest in many countries. We have icons dying, sacrifices. We have martyrs rising. We have saviors rising. We have tyrants emerging. We have the four square. We have the roles being resurrected in relation to a cycle and a season of galactic proportions. And at this time, we have the opportunity to step onto the stage in a new way. We don't have to consume the script and play it the way it's always been done. But the only way to see the way you live and perceive reality differently is to go within yourself and ask, is this actually in alignment with not only me, but progression itself? Every day is a new dawn, and every dawn has a new dusk. But we're not the same every day, and every dawn, every dusk. We're changing all the time. So do you want to step into the ignorance of the four square game, or you want to step outside the box and resurrect yourself anew, allow the ancestors to rise in new ways and evolve the mythologies? And that's what these times allow.
Yeah, because like we recorded this video on the street today, which might or might not be reaching the public eye, but we were talking exactly about this. Like, if you imagine that every day you have certain amount of attention span, certain amount of energy as a being, certain amount of prana, life force available to you, and where are we channeling that energy? What are we focusing it on? Because whether it's the racial thing, whether it's the sex thing, whether it's the the political thing or financial thing or whatever it is, all these things that are part of our everyday life, everyday reality, and there is no right and wrong. It's not like this is acceptable, tolerable. This is not about the labels connected to it, but it's about there are so many things going on, and we are literally bombarded with all of them, especially in these after effects of this 29-degree analytic degree Virgo eclipse, right? It was a new moon on 29 degrees, almost 28:59. The eclipse itself, the moon, the new moon was on 29 degrees. So it's again like we had the new moon in Virgo in August, the 0-degree new moon. So it's Alpha and Omega. Again, here you have a new moon, which is a seeding of a new consciousness in Virgo, which to me personally, as I many times shared, represents the human journey, hero's journey, as spirit being incarnate and just learning, going through life, trying to make adjustments, trying to create new things, better, worse. It is what it is. The spirit doesn't polarize. But going back to this, from the endings of the old, the 29 degrees of Virgo, it's like everything is like literally showing us that this is the end of era. And whether you look at the traditional types of astrology, you listen to predictions, you listen to Dolores Cannon, you listen to whatever you listen to, they predicted these times. And us as a soul incarnate, we knew what we were coming here for. We might not remember it, we might feel victimized by this time and say, I didn't choose this. But we all have a free will. It's very easy to get out of this 3D reality, to check out from this world. Very easy to die. Human being is very vulnerable. So everybody that is here right now has a role to play. And because we're here, that means, okay, well, I have a role to play. That means I must have chosen to be here at these times, however it feels to me. So the 29 degrees of Virgo eclipse we just experienced, what is ending for you? What is ending for you, and the new is rising from the ashes of the old, because nothing is wasted. We can see, observe nature. Nature is the best example of that. Nothing is ever wasted in nature. Nothing. Everything has a purpose and meaning. Everything is being recycled to support the continuation of life, a continuation of growth, continuation of the cycle expanding. So going back to what I started with, where are we focusing our life force, our attention, when I have certain amount of life force available to me, and there are all these million things available, 29 degrees of Virgo, you can choose whatever you want. And it's not about polarization, what is right and wrong. Those are your squares to the Gemini and Sagittarius axes. And Jupiter is ruled by Moon, so all the lunations are influencing Jupiter and Jupiter influencing us. Being in Cancer, we can feel it very deeply. So what am I choosing? What am I choosing to focus my attention on? What am I supporting with regards to who I'm choosing to be becoming? So all of these things they are serving because they are showing us the full spectrum of menu. You can choose whatever you want. And it doesn't make it easy. It doesn't mean that people who are directly affected and are in the places and situation where this is happening and they are experiencing that in their physical body, it doesn't mean that, oh yeah, whatever. We are not trying to spiritually bypass, but if this is not you, then tune in and invest in all our energy into that old energy that is here just to show a contrast, but not necessarily needs to be recreated. What else can I choose to actually support the other side of the scale, to create the antidote, in a sense, the balancing force? So that's what I feel, that all of these things that are currently present in our experiences as a human collective consciousness, this is what they are supporting us in choosing. I don't know what is the correct word for that, but they are playing a supportive role.
Yeah, it's helping us to cultivate a sense of self. So thinking of what you just said and the polarity of the past and the future, finding who we are in the present moment, the gift of life, channeling this change energy, which is life itself, into existence. Think of Saturn back into Pisces now for the last time for another 30 years. But the last time meeting Neptune here for a very long time. So we're cleaning out the sense of self. And if the sense of self is not valued by us because we have put too much value in an external icon, a relation that we play a role as, then we will find that we are no good. Maybe we're not worth much. So we might as well find what suits us, what we deserve in this world, and play that role, which is the past. It's the replication of where we come from. Or we can say, okay, I've played this game. I see how the players set, how the match is set, and how the rules apply. And I don't want to play that anymore. I don't want to play a pawn in someone else's game. I don't want to play a rigged game. So think of Saturn, like exalted in Libra here, to 28, 27 degrees of Pisces now. Basically trining Mars, or in conjunct, just coming out of the in conjunction with Mars here. And Saturn will be going back over that 0 point of Aries. So we're recasting ourselves. So you look at Taurus. You think of Taurus, okay, and now we think of Uranus coming through Taurus, now entering into or in Gemini, and then ingressing or going back into Taurus retrograde. So we are going to say, okay, the Oranic hymns, the songs of the past, so old they're new, are setting back in. Are we worth change or are we not? So that's a compassionation. So we're either going to play the role of Saturn, where it's cleaning up the past by reaching the peak devolution, which is the destruction of all that has been created before, legacy system, legacy beliefs, and the legacies of our power, in a sense, or are we going to be reborn through this Gaia Uranus energy and raise a new Saturn, the child of existence, form itself in new spirit through us here now? And this is the opportunities we're living through. And, you can't really grasp the meaning of the opportunity in real time, just like life. You don't know what your choices are leading you to. You have an idea, and then later on, you settle on an idea, and then later on, that idea becomes something else. So we continue to change. You could say evolve. You could say progress through this cultivation of ourself, and it's the gift of the ignorance that we're swimming through, that we're walking through.
Yeah, and as you mentioned this morning when we were speaking about this, Uranus was in Taurus last time when we had the war, right? Because I know we covered that when Uranus ingressed into Gemini, that was during the Second World War.
Mhm.
So obviously Uranus was last time in Gemini throughout the wars. So now the cycle is coming around again for expansion. How much do I value myself? Because as we were discussing in private today, people's choices will be heavily influenced by their relationship towards oneself, like whether do I still allow the external world to dictate my role, or do I choose my role, and then the external environment will fall into place of the story I'm creating, right? Because yes, like we are not the center of the universe, but you are the center of your universe. We are all center of these little universes, which is your own life. Nobody else knows as good as you know, because you are the center of your life. You are the sun in your chart. And everybody has their own, and that together is co-creating this tapestry of human collective consciousness, the jigsaw puzzle pieces, you may say. And yes, in order to come together to create this perfection of the expression of humanity, everybody is individuating at the moment, because if you had every single piece of the jigsaw puzzle the same, you couldn't create a picture of it. You have the unique pieces. So this is where the Piscean age is no longer applicable to the Aquarian age, because Piscean age was very much about, okay, we just have to believe these things, or we have to support this person, or this is the guru, this is the king, this is the deity, this is whoever it is. But these are all just archetypes to help you to see that in yourself, to learn to recognize that the divinity in yourself, and then the entire things will flip. So that's why I even say to my clients who have Libra rising, or people with solar return Libra rising, like things are going to be turned upside down. But it doesn't mean a bad thing. It's sometimes because we do live in an inverted reality here currently on this planet. Actually, you're putting them in the right place, so upside down, putting things upside down very often, even though it does create a lot of crises, because Libra is inherently not balanced. She's not harmonious. She's constantly searching how to balance itself. These situations, and now of course being in Libra season, Venus being in Virgo in a mutual reception with this Mercury, and Mercury again being the ruler of Uranus, being the ruler of the South Node, being the former ruler of this eclipse we just had. There are a lot of choices that are being created based on the experience of the unwanted. Like there is all of these things that are happening are creating opportunity to choose whatever you choose. Like just like I think it was Abraham Hicks that said in one of the videos, they said people would say like, well, like when am I going to create this new thing, or something about creating, and they said you are creating all the time. You just get stuck in recreating the same thing, but it doesn't mean you're not creating. We're like, when am I going to manifest this world? I said, well, you're already manifesting. Just what am I manifesting depends on who I am. So going back to what Aaron just said about this Taurus, And what I was, coming back to the conversation we had this morning about Uranus in Taurus last time during the war, and now again, and we have the final ingress next month, and then Uranus is going to leave Taurus in April next year, April 26, 27, depends where you are in the world. The foundation is changing, the foundation of your personal life and the foundation of the microcosm, and to what it will change to, and the choice that you will make depends on your relationship towards yourself, right? That is the Taurus. So, currently Venus is the ruler of Taurus, and the ruler of Sun, being in Libra currently, being a sign of Virgo, in the after effects of this Virgo eclipse. Shit is coming up, shit is hitting fan, literally, for us to be able to discern and choose. So we can't say, oh, I didn't know, I wasn't being told. Well, here it is, full spectrum of it. So pick from the menu, whatever you want. And it sounds much easier than it is. And everybody is experiencing in their own way. And the experience is not easy for many, for some more difficult than others, no doubt. But the energy is the same.
Yeah, it's the energy of change, and it's transmutation, transformation, and transcendence, and that's the process of cycles, essentially, all things. Should we get into a chart?
Yeah, let's look
Take
at
a
the
look?
chart now. Yeah.
All right,
It's
let's
a
pull one up.
good time for water break.
We'll pull up the current chart. All right, so
we are a bit in the future over here, because for most people this is still Tuesday. For a lot of people, actually. It's interesting to experience things one day later.
yeah, and on the other side of the equator.
Exactly.
So getting a full spectrum, real lived experience of the energies at this time. I've never had an equinox south of the equator, so here we go. It's a more global view. Now we got full spectrum feeling here. So let's look at the sun. We just crossed the Libra point yesterday. Sun's at 1 degree in an exact trine with Uranus and Pluto. So we got this grand air trine here. And what that says is we're embodying the transmutation through a process of transformation. And what is transcendence? That's Neptune here at the 0 point of Aries in opposition to that sun. So we've got this energy of change, which is being re-embodied. And we have the ancient wounds of the past, the spiritual wounds, which we heal. Like, think of working out or anything, planting a garden, you're tilling up the soil, you're destroying the soil, you're laying a foundation for future growth. And it's in the work, it's in the effort of the process. Change, oftentimes it hurts, and you can feel all the range of emotions in that process before you can embody the truth of what it is. And a lot of times when you settle on the truth, that's the limitation of your conception rising. And it doesn't mean you're wrong or it's bad. That's just a natural process. So we have to understand that to be in our hubris statically is different than to be in our hubris dynamically. And once you've been humbled a few times, you realize you're always a fool. And your knowledge, though it can help you and it can help others, and you can share that, and you can stand in a sense of conviction for a truth that matters here now, it's not the full picture. It's always growing and changing. And we all have different conceptions and different capacities for compassionating ourselves. And the depth of what we're able to hold within ourselves is the depth we'll be able to hold in this world. And some people, their individuation process is in rebellion, or it is in revenge, or it is in dismantling a seemingly corrupt power structure, in playing the roles in those games because the dramas come and go. And then for others, it's about, okay, is this really me? Is this reflection me? Or is that static, the change that I need to embody? And that's kind of how I'm feeling right now with that grand air trine.
Yeah, and we also have the grand water trine here with what is this? Oh, Black moon lilies. Black
Yeah.
moon lilies, the North Node, Saturn, technically still, and on the other side, Jupiter. We have quite a lot of in conjunction. We have Yod formation,
Mm.
and that is from Neptune to the moon on that 0 degree of Scorpio, and also Uranus here on that 1 degree. Also, Venus is in conjunction, almost exact with Pallas. And it's interesting because, of course, we've been talking a lot about Venus as the ruler of Libra and the ruler of Taurus. And Pallas Athena, of course, the wisdom, but we have Pallas in Aquarius in a new phase conjunction with Pluto, who is on that 1 degree, which is that magician, and 27 minutes, which is the number 9. That's the year we find in ourselves. And interestingly, Pallas is on 6 degrees, which is all about the balance and harmony, and the 56, the number 11. Venus is also on the 56 minutes, but the 5 is the disruption, the chaos. So that's what we experience in. We feel and we can see and observe that the world is very chaotic right now. There is a lot of disruption. We are experiencing a lot of trauma of our ancestors based on like, oh yeah, we've been through this before. We experienced this before, like all of these things. Okay, they might have a different costume. They might be showing up differently, obviously applied to 21st century, but it's the same energy, it's the same emotion that's coming up for healing. So it is in conjunction Venus to Pallas. It's like we don't really know like what is this wisdom of the future, this Aquarian age, because it's a new thing, and it cannot really be it cannot really be explained logically. It has to be felt, and it has to be experienced, because with the Venus being in Virgo, you have to go through life. You have to have the experience. With the Aquarius, you have to go through all the 10 houses, the 10 archetypes, to understand the pattern so you can break out of it. That's why we have to go through life what we have to go through, because we need to understand what the hell is going on so we can then break the pattern.
Yes, very well said. Yeah, and it's about finding your intuitive pull. In life, we ignore the intuition. At a certain point, we see it as woo-woo, or it's too chaotic, untrustworthy, because there's no evidence to support it. So at this point, we can see that square with the moon, Mars, and Pluto, and that in conjunction with Uranus here. And we've got, as you said, Pallas in a new phase conjunction with Pluto. So at this point, the subtleties, we can capture the subtleties of realization through grounding yourself in this moment and asking, what is the truth of my passion? What has it been in this world? How have I used my emotions? How have they used me? What have I learned in the process of this game, this ignorance, this life? What have I given to others unjustly and justly, and what has been given to me? And more importantly, what is the creativity, necessity is the mother of invention, and trauma is the cure. The poison is the cure. How do we recalibrate to an authentic sense of self and allow this intuition to lead us, not necessarily just through the information, especially in this age, with AI, with all the psychological operations, with all the cycles themselves and the dramas and the archetypes rising to play out again. How do we release a sense of self and what that action is? And rather than consume the epigenetics, we create through those epigenetics. We allow the relation to that to build friction through our actions. So how do we do that? We find the passion. What allows Uranus to break chains? How does Hercules come to help us? It is a process of allowing the pain and the trauma, which is embodied in our ancestors and within our cultures, to be healed. And it's an internal job. It's an inside job. You have to heal by basically allowing yourself to be ignorant, by allowing yourself to be free in your process, and to not necessarily forgive or forget, but forgive yourself in a way, because you're not a static. We get bound to the loops of the past because we can't accept ourselves, because we can't forgive ourselves. And that's what keeps us stuck to these chains, to the mountain of knowledge as it has been given, the history as it has been laid, to the mountain of Capricorn. So we must rise up. And the only way to do that is through the inspiration of your passion. And you have to go through the stages from apathy all the way up to uh, bliss in this process. But what do you settle on? Do you allow yourself to be static, or do you allow yourself to rise? And you are worth it, and your passion is worth it. And it isn't always easy to hold that conception. I've lived that my whole life. And it's something that I don't struggle with. It's just a natural expression for me to go through that Geminian way of dark and light, ignorance and knowledge, learning my authority through not necessarily the information or the truth, but through the freedom of not knowing and realizing it never is as it appears to be. Doesn't diminish the knowledge or the experience or the past. It enlivens the present so that you can know existence is immortal. You are immortal. And it's not in the sense of I, it's in the sense of being, the lived experience.
Yeah, very, very well. And also, going on that trauma loop and how it's again because we see a lot of statues of deities here, and one that repeatedly keeps coming up is this woman with the jug. Obviously, neither of us familiar with Hindu tradition. We don't know which one it is exactly, but it looks like the Aquarius, like star card. And just like Aaron was saying, in order for this trauma loop to end, like it has to be experienced, it has to be embodied. So it's like with the Aquarius archetype, the person pouring the water from the jug. You don't become your emotion, you carry all this emotion, you allow it to run through you, so then it like you were saying early on today, it can return back to the source, right? Back to the water, to become something else, to become the fertilizer for the new expression, for the new emotion to rise. So I'm looking at Chiron over here because, of course, Chiron is our wounded healer, currently still in opposition. Obviously, already the exact opposition happened in Libra, but still in a degree opposition with Moon and Mars now being in his rulership, and both connected to Pluto, of course, Moon and the Mars, and Mars being the ruler of Neptune, being the ruler of Chiron, and Chiron we know is moving into Taurus next year. It will be the only one of these planets moving, these big moves that we have ongoing at the moment, that is moving into feminine sign. All the rest of them will be in the yang expression, the masculine side, the expression of creating, doing. So that's very interesting that currently Chiron in opposition with the moon during the time when we are experiencing today, as we're recording this, we experiencing the exact trine between Sun and Uranus, Sun and Pluto, and also the square between Mars and what was it, Mars and Pluto, right? Yeah, Mars and Pluto, yeah, 1 degree. So we can see on this chart is just going to happen, but by the time you're watching this, it will have already passed. But this is the energy we are experiencing at the moment. So going back to this Chiron as the key between Saturn and Uranus, Saturn being back in the sign of Pisces, Uranus still being in Gemini retrograde currently, ruled by this Mercury in Libra in mutual reception with Venus as the upcoming ruler of Chiron. And then we also have these in conjunctions, the yacht pointing to this Mars and Moon from from Neptune, and the other side is from Uranus, right? So there is a lot of unknown. There is a lot that needs to be experienced and embodied. And then, like Aaron said early on, it has to be transformed, transmuted, transcended, but it has to be felt, because the energy, we know even from quantum physics, energy cannot be destroyed. It can only change form. So us expecting that, okay, I'm going to go to sleep and tomorrow I wake up and this world will be a different place. And why is it not happening yet? Because all of these energies that are stuck in time and space, aka karma, they have to be embodied. They have to play out again. So with all of these things going on, again, micro, macro, your personal life, your familial cycle, or the political scene, or whatever it is, these energies have to play out again, because these emotions have to be embodied, they have to be felt, so a new choice can be made. So this is again what we talked about half an hour ago. What choice are you going to make? Again, like, yes, some of us might be the front runners, involved in politics, involved in, I don't know, educational system, medical system, whatever system, right? The system wanting to create a alternative to the current system or something. And some of us are here to hold a space. Some of our grid workers, right? We experience one of them here in Bali, personal interaction. So yeah, we all have a role to play. So based on the role that you came here to play, what feels right to you? What way of embodying this energy and dealing with it feels right to you? And with the opposition, it always represents that, okay, there are opposing forces. With this Chiron in Aries, and of course, this is a Sagittarius decan, Jupiter in Cancer, and Jupiter now in this Piscean decan. Interestingly enough, on the 2136, 21, the world card in Tarot, which is the graduation, the end, 36, the number 9, the end. So the story of the past is ending, whether we like it or not, whether we are happy about it or not. That's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. What is relevant is, okay, now what do you want to become? What story you want to create? And what expression of these energies, and for that, to be created, the old has to be run through so it can be transformed, transmuted, transcended, whatever way it will play out. So the current astrology and the current situation in the world, micro macro, it is perfectly mirroring one another, but it's supporting this process of ending a big cycle. So, I mean, the cycles are always beginning, ending. They're always in some stage, like cycles that we are experiencing cycles within cycles within cycles within cycles within cycles. But we know also from the yoga, right, sidereal astrology or something, there's something that's ending now, right?
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with it myself, but I know you know more about it. And I mean, we have North Node conjunct ascendant on this chart. I mean, what else can I tell you?
Yeah, like Kali Yuga energies, we're coming to change, essentially. Endings, beginnings, as you said. As Mila mentioned, it's always happening. Cycles are always ending and beginning. And what changes in your own life, because you can think of your life as a succession of mini cycles, stages, seasons of life. And this, as you were speaking of Chiron here, 25 degrees, 54 minutes of Aries, it is in a transformational, in conjunction with a Black Moon Lilith right now. And this is the repressions, the taboos, the anama, the animus, realizing what is acceptable and what isn't is a judgment. When you are in judgment, you're not actually living authentically because you're stuck in the mind. In Venus being the host ruler, the host ruler of Taurus and Libra, and going to be receiving Chiron next year, Venus represents our compassionation, the language of our emotions. How much can we embody? The fool's journey is reborn here. When you see Virgo, you can think of the transformation, the actual work of Aquarius, bringing the star into existence. The star card, pouring the water onto the soil holding the emotions, the depths. But as the emotions through our own life processes remineralizes through experiences and reaches back into the river, the flow of life, when you can find that meaning within yourself and you can unite your universe with the cosmos, then you can sing into Aquarius, and that's where diversity becomes unity. And you embody this new energy in a more enlightened way, a more conscious way. And we don't necessarily need to play the four square game or the triangle. It's like the tyrant, victim, martyr, savior. There is only three. The fourth is a placeholder, and it's within our repressions that we project this shadow into existence. And we find that fourth square, that four corner that actually doesn't exist. But when you're in your ignorance, you don't You're not looking at the corner. You can't see it. You're just moving as the fool moves in the spirit of your essence. And you walk through that corner. You walk through those walls. And it isn't easy. And that's how you know you're doing it. If it were easy, you wouldn't actually be engaged with life or existence. So there are times when you flow and there are times when you swim. And you will find those times when you reflect in the present moment. Things get hard, but that doesn't mean that's all they are. Things don't look good, but that's not the limit of what can be or what has been. You know, good people, bad people, everyone is necessary, everyone is needed, everyone is alive, you know, and this is all one big family, even though it may be friends and enemies, you know, it's a orchestra.
Mm.
And it's okay to hate and it's okay to love. You know, you move through the emotions, you hold what it means, you give it life, and then you mature it and you move through it. And that's how your character and your spirit rises. You know, you're cultivating a sense of self so that you can return to source through that river of life with more understanding and possibly for many other reasons that I can't conceive. But for this moment, think allegorically. Your life is a journey. How do you want to live it? How can you live it best? How do you embody it?
Yeah, it's interesting because when you were saying about the compassion, Venus being in Virgo and Venus is exalted in Pisces. So based on traditional astrology, we would say that Venus is actually in her fall, which is like the weakest she can be. But you know, we don't polarize astrology from evolutionary astrology lens. We don't polarize anything. Everything serves a purpose. And actually, exactly as I mentioned previously, the 5 degrees. Venus is at the 5 degrees in her so-called fall in Virgo, so we can learn to compassionate. Would we have not had these difficult challenging situations, you know, would we have not experienced hate, we wouldn't know what love feels like. And we know that love and hate are flip side of the same coin, because you cannot really hate someone if you don't have strong feelings towards that person. Like, you know, we know that the opposition of love is not hate, it's actually is a indifference, right? Like when you don't care, that's when, you know, there's no charge, right? So anyway, going back to this Venus, and you know, Venus currently being in Virgo, which is again about this hero's journey, fool's journey, you know, like in the 6th house, this is where we making adjustments, you know, where we are being humbled by the experience, but we also learning to compassionate, because the opposition being Pisces, we are learning, you know, like Venus being the ruler of Taurus and Libra, and as Aaron mentioned, there's an inconjunction between the two. You will never really see the true value of yourself through others. The others will just mirror to you exactly how you feel about yourself. But there is also the saying that goes that people will only treat you the way you treat yourself, the way you allow them to treat you, right? So the foundation, there is no coincidence Taurus is the 2nd house. The foundation is built from within. So Venus being in Virgo, Virgo trines Taurus, and also Virgo trines Capricorn, ruled by Saturn currently in Pisces. Once again, we're going back to the same thing. We have to re-experience what is unhealed from the past, whether it's your own past in this lifetime, whether it's your past lives, your ancestor lives, collecting. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who started the fire. The fire is here. So what do we do with that? And that's the only way where this energy can become something different through that Virgo.
Yeah, and with Venus in Virgo, the information as it is applied, how do you apply it? So let's think of modern times and culture. Okay, white man this, black man that, Asian man this, alien man that. These are cultural projections. You know, a human being is more than their culture. You know, just because you might grow up in a crappy area or a stereotypical area, that doesn't mean that that's who you are. That's the program you're working through. So you must embody the value of humanity and help to actually cultivate the spirit of human heritage through being an individual. You know, we share these karmas, these dharmas, this energy because it is a progression from the unknown past to the unknown future. And we are more than the cultural programs. And the programs are what run the dramas. And You know, if you vote for this person or that person, that doesn't mean you're bad. It just means that you're trauma bound to convictions which debilitate a free thinking mind. You know, you are governmented, you are governed, you are castigated, you are cast down. So you have to break those chains of self. And it's hard to do that if you can't find the value in a sense of self. But once you find your value or a sense of self, you can see that in others. You can project that. We don't just project shadows, we project light as well. And I've learned that from firsthand experience. And it's something that is an art of life, and it is a great art for us to work on. And that's how we can use Venus and Virgo right now and get this South Node energy moving. Not to play the same game, but to play the game in a new way.
Mm.
You know, as the game gets old, you no longer want to play it. So it's just a natural progression. And with Mercury in Libra, we have that opportunity. How are we assessing the information? What actually is the center point? Are we looking at the full breadth of the horizon? Or have we been bound to the myopic view of a linear projection of a legacy idea of the past? You know, the two systems are all systems are only as good as the people programming through those systems. So find a new language, release language, hold the value of it, but don't let it bind you to the rock of its truth. Rise above, build, continue, move on.
And there is no such a thing as truth, because there is just a subjective perception of reality unless it's the universal law. These are the only things that are the truth that applies to everybody in no time, in no space, doesn't matter where you came from, what life you lived. And it's interesting how when Aaron was saying about, like whatever color of skin, whatever religion, whatever culture or orientation, it really doesn't matter because us traveling, and I have been traveling most of my life since I was 19 years old when I left my country and moved to England and then worked on the cruise ships and now being digital nomad for the past 3 years. Like you go around the world and you see people like even here we can see people, okay, that person maybe has ancestors from that island or from that continent or from whatever, and people fall in love. Love is the transformer, the eternal of transformer. You are love and you will return to love. So people fall in love, opposing religions, opposing cultures, where the idea, the story says you should be enemies, you should fight, but the human life has much higher and deeper value than the story behind it. Just like Aaron said, you are not your culture, you are not your religion. It can um, help you to experience life certain way through that lens Sagittarius, the lens of the story. But there's a culture, religion, philosophy, it doesn't matter what it is, like science, it really doesn't matter that what is the label. And this is also with Mercury now being in Libra. And it's interesting, again, I'm looking at the numerology of the 10, and we know that next year is the year number 10, the big reset, wheel of fortune, the 0 and the 1, the fool and the magician, and the 22, the great builder, master number frequency, and is also the number associated with Archangel Sandalphon, which is the Earth Star chakra. What bound us to this existence, to this reality. And again, Virgo, the human journey, hero's journey, mutual reception, Venus and Mercury. So there is no coincidence. There is no coincidence. All these labels that we've ever projected and experienced on and being applied on and being projected onto us, and we adopt it. We are identified as that this is my country of origin. So this is who I am, or this is my religious orientation. This is what my parents were. But you are all of these things and you are none of these things. At this time, when we are in a physical form, playing the role we came here to play, fully embodied and how you say, we are fully meshed up with this experience. Like we have to forget, we have to be ignorant, we have to be fools in order to have this experience. Because if I knew this is all just a divine comedy or tragedy, then what's the point? If I knew this was all, like people say, this is a hologram or this is a illusion or a maya. Yes and no, it is true and it is not the truth, because for you as a human this is a real thing. For somebody being in a war zone, it is a real thing. But at the same time, for the soul, that this person is an aspect of, this is a dream, this is a hologram. So both are truth at the same time. So again, with the labels, with Mercury being the ruler of Uranus, we're going beyond the labels. You can choose whatever labels you temporarily want to adjust yourself to, because it's a mutable energy and Uranus is very fast. So we go back to the same thing. Now in the after effects of Virgo season and these two eclipses and two new moons in Virgo, we are learning new language through experiencing the old.
Yeah. Yeah, and building through that. I mean, you spoke, being here in Bali, we could see where the history has proven to be a very Aquarian energy. There's so many different ethnicities and religious and cultural ideas which have come together, the languages even, and they've created through that. The people here have integrated all these changes and created their own unique expression. And this is why so many people want to come here. So many people want to experience this. And even the land itself is a microcosm of the macro. There's so much biodiversity here. There's so many different climates, and anything can grow and any animal can thrive. And it is a strange and beautiful place to be. And it is a reminder that, we do not settle on absolutions. We grow through them. And when death and life comes, when up and down comes, when good and bad comes, it's not the definition as an absolution. It is the definition through your progression. What do you do through that? What is the meaning if you don't live? What is the meaning if you settle on a static rather than live the ignorance of the progression? There are times when we want to hold on to a truth, or we want to hold on to an idea because it actually is good for us. It keeps us alive and it empowers us. But you should keep in mind that there is a thing called possession. And you can possess an idea, but it also possesses you. So just think of it as a rope. You're climbing, one hand, one hand. Once you have new release language, you allow the other to grow by releasing it and letting it die. And if it's true, if it is in resonance with a progression, it will come back. And it usually comes back new. And it honors the past idea or the past logos by being a continuation in a new way. And so there are mini cycles, not just in the statics, but in the dynamics. And that's where we create. And when one person is in that energy, other people in their vicinity become drawn into that energy themselves, and it's a resonance. And this is what I also feel is happening in the Aquarian age. It's a lot of old stories are showing us that there are new ways to do it, and we might actually have to apply new ideas into this equation because the old ideas aren't working. And there are a lot of narratives playing out, a lot of stories happening, but the knowledge of those things will bind you if you allow them. So just move through it, progress with the time, be in your creative flow rather than the consumptive gravity of a conviction of the past, something that is just, it's an old story, you can honor it in a new way.
Exactly. And I mean, we probably will have much more clarity with the next full moon, Aries full moon, which was seeded by the final eclipse in Aries we experienced at the end of March, right before Neptune moved into the sign of Aries and become ruled by Mars. But the eclipse season, as we were today saying, is not gone, because the upcoming full moon, which will be the Aries full moon, was seeded by the eclipse, and the Libra new moon, which is at the end of Libra season, I believe on the 21st, was seeded by the new moon in Libra last year, which was also an eclipse. So these are very destined times, and we were always meant to experience them. And I know many channelers are bringing through information saying that this is actually, we are experiencing them much easier than it could have been, because of the levels of consciousness rising on the planet. Many people are making new choices. They are choosing to heal, to experience these old dynamics, and make a new choice under all circumstances. So things could have been much worse, apparently, which could be hard to believe for some. But this is what was, what is the information that is coming through certain sources. But at the same time, nobody's saying it's easy, and it's not meant to be easy, because, like Aaron said, would everything be easy and there would be no challenge, there would be no pressure, nothing would ever change. Because even if you're born with everything, then why would you want to become a better person, or why would you need to be compassionate or anything? It's like, in everybody's life, and this is just the cycle of life, there are ups and downs, and you're never up forever and you're never down forever. It's always cyclical, because each of these experiences are teaching us. And now when we take it to macro, all of these experiences humanity is going through and has been going through is endlessly teaching us. Is teaching us how to become a more improved, better version of ourselves, not technologically wise necessarily, even though that is part of our experience and it will be, because that's the age we're living in. But you as a prototype, archetype, human, and we know that currently there is something going on with our DNA, and we are cultivating and creating an expression of humanity called future human, which will be something very different to how we've been in the past hundreds of years. But this is part of the endless flow of life, right? So now, really, in this final 3 months of this year number 9, this really is the time where we have the opportunity to choose before the reset happens with the January 1st, when we are going to enter into the year number 10. It will be the year of it's the fire horse, right?
Yeah.
And horse represents the freedom, and fire is the creation. So this is our preparation. This is the final stage of the boot camp. We all came here for a reason. We all came here to play a certain role connected to the past, which is karma loops, karma bounds, and also because of the time and age we live in it right here and right now, connected to the future. Not everybody is here for that. Not everybody came here to create a foundation or to play a different role, future role. Some people just came here, well, not just, everybody has an equal importance. So this is the time when we are deciding, and that's why, as I was saying to Aaron today, for me, what's going on now in the world, and I've been feeling this energy for about a year now, represents the card of judgment in a major arcana of tarot. This is literally what this year represents to me, even though I don't have a numerological or any explanation for it. But this is what I felt that this year represents, with that endings of the cycle, endings of the karmic roles we played. Obviously, Saturn being in Pisces for the final time, as Aaron said, until early 2050s. And that's when it's going to conjunct Pluto somewhere, I believe. So anyway, I don't remember all the informative details, but this is the time when we really are called, like on that card, the angel is blowing that trumpet, right? Like we are being shaken out of our dream state and saying, hey, you came here for a reason. You have a purpose. You have a role to play. Yes, our role was also connected to help to clear up the past, but with Saturn for the final time in the sign of Pisces for this time round, that role is now ended. So we are all being invited to choose a new role, and we have, with Uranus in Gemini, unlimited amount of timelines and possibilities, opportunities to our disposal to choose from. So what is it for you? So unless you are a front runner, like of a political scene or something, then how many of us need to be engaged in these energies 24/7 and give the majority of our life force on daily basis to this thing that died long time ago?
Yeah, I mean, not to justify evil or to give it a free pass, but it is part of existence. We're all genetically modified, and that's how it's always been, because everything is nature. Everything is in creation is here for a reason. And I feel, looking at this chart, it's just starting with Uranus, which is the transformation. You can see these sextiles here with Neptune and Saturn. Neptune, Saturn sextiling Pluto, Pluto sextiling Vesta, which is opposing Uranus. And Vesta, the Vestal Virgin, the purity of the fire, which is represented in the cultivation of the human spirit through Virgo, the fool's journey, where Venus is, who is a ruler in Libra, where the sun is, and where Saturn is exalted and will be making it. I'm not sure if it will in conjunct the sun. It'll probably be in conjunction once the sun hits Scorpio. But this is a recalibration, and that to me is what that Judgment card represents. It's a very Plutonic card, but it is rising into the form of a spirit embodied, and it's not by the replications of the past, but falling into what is the purity of your fire, what is the reason, what is the new belief rising through you here. All the information, all the stories, all the trauma loops of the past, what does that actually do? It creates a sense of purity and authentic expression, because that's what's different than replicated design. So we're cultivating what that fire is so that we can embody that and bring that forward. And that's a unifying factor. When you meet people who are in their purpose, and they may not be able to hold the language or the truth of what that is, but you can feel the spirit. They're in the fool's journey. They may not have a sense of self that is able to give them conviction and strength like other people, but there is a time and a season for everyone, and your time and your season come when you're in alignment with that. You know, they say there is no good luck. It's just when preparation meets time, meets existence, meets realization. And that's what I feel we're heading into right here, especially.
Oh, that's, I feel, is a good note to end on. To be continued. So should we stop sharing the
Yeah,
screen?
let's stop sharing the screen.
Yeah, there will be a lot of things, of course, happening while we're still here. We're actually leaving right after the new moon in Libra. But yeah, once again, if anybody would like to support us in our work, in our mission, in our own hero's journey, fool's journey, then we will put the link again in the description as previously. And yes, both of us are still unavailable for personal readings until the end of October, but then we'll be back on scene. And yeah, actually, my personal October overview will be coming out this weekend, and also my collab with my Solstice Marisa Stars and Cards for October. So if you would like to hear what I brought through at the beginning of September, so I can't even tell you what it was now, but I pre-recorded that video. You can find it on my YouTube channel next week. And yeah, anything you would like to add or share?
Yeah, I'll be dropping messages as I feel I'm inspired to, as I've always done. And anything comes through, then I'll release some videos. If you have any questions or you want to schedule a reading or anything like that, just reach out, and when we are done with our honeymoon, I'll be in touch.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you everyone for watching and for your time. Have a great Libra season, I suppose, and integration of the eclipses. And we'll speak to you again in the next one.
Namaste.
Bye, everyone.
See you.